Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel. So I am filming this video and will be posting it almost a month after my last video because I went on a huge hiatus. It was a really good time. It was due to a lot of things, but my main reason was that I was kind of getting tired of creating content all the time, and I felt like if I continued doing it, then I would just be creating the content for content's sake rather than for my own enjoyment or because I wanted to say something. So I was like, yeah, this is a good time to take a break, and October is always depression season for me. Also, I was in a very emotionally compromised state because of a certain series that I shall not name, and I could not stop thinking about it, and it really impacted my reading because all I could do was think about that one series. Yeah, I could feel a slump incoming, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to slump, I might as well not do all the bookish related things that I do. That way I will not have anything on my mind at all and I can chill for some time before I started this new responsibility at work. October was a good time. I did not read a lot, but I'm okay with it because I did so many other things I have not done in a while. I played a lot of video games and I completed them. So I completed Gears of War 4, Gears 5, Red Dead Redemption, and Life is Strange. Gears 5 was like pretty interesting because they kept that element of just like moving along the game, but they included side missions and just they expanded on the world building a little bit, and they went back into like the Pendulum Wars and everything. It was fun. The Gears games are fun. I don't have to, use a lot of my mental capabilities. I just pick up a gun, I shoot locusts. It's nice. All this while, I try not to think about how I am playing as a character who works for a fascist government. Too close to real life. So Red Dead Redemption, well, when I started playing this game, it was kind of fun, but like at the end of it, I got really tired of it because I was just so tired of riding out to, places where you get your mission and then it just says shit like come back between this time slot. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. But I finished it. I did all the side missions except for the one where you have to find beaver furs, but because I couldn't find any fucking beavers. Story of my life. And I finally finished Life is Strange. It was, well, not always a good time because episode 5 was crazy. Up until episode 4, I was like, oh yeah, this is a nice game. Just things are happening. It's not that, high stress kind of thing. But then episode 5 happened, I was just like, what the fuck? We were in normal American small town bullshit, and then suddenly they dropped that in the middle at the end of the storyline. I'm actually really happy that I finally finished Life is Strange because whenever I play Life is Strange for more than an hour, I always get nauseated and I get a headache. I think it's because of the rewind visualization and just like the audio of it and everything. But yeah, I'm really glad that I finished it. I also started reading the comics for it and I haven't even finished an issue. But I'm looking forward to doing that in November, maybe. And I completed all of these games while taking breaks in between, so even that was very chill. I did not pressure myself into doing anything. Usually when I do something, when I pick up a book or when I start playing a game, I have this, nagging feeling in the back of my head that's just like, okay, finish this already, finish this, so you can do the next thing. Because I have a huge pile of books to read as well as a huge pile of video games to play. And similar things, just a lot of stuff to be done always. Sometimes I feel like I'm in this race to catch up to everyone and just like do everything that everyone else is doing. And I wanted to get out of that mindset for a little while. So I decided to break all the promises that I made in my last video that said that I would read a shitload of books. I did not read a shitload of books, but I had a really great time. So I played a lot of video games, and I had these video games for a while. And it was really fun to, finally play them because I bought my Xbox almost a year ago and it's one of my very prized possessions, including my Kindle, because I bought both of these things with my own money, so they mean a lot to me. And I didn't feel like I was using it a lot and kind of felt like I had wasted all my money on that. But I played all my games and it gave me a lot of satisfaction. So that was a nice feeling. And I think I watched a little bit of TV, which I have not done in a while because I just didn't feel like watching anything, especially anime, because you have to focus on the subtitles the entire time. I just felt like that I did not have the capacity to do that. But I watched Lovecraft Country, and I watched another thing. I don't remember what it was. I watched a couple of, yeah, I watched a couple of rom-coms just for fun. And I watched 2 seasons of the anime Food Wars, which is Shokugeki no Soma, and I watched that with my brother every night. So my brother is 5 years older than me, and we don't really talk that much. But this is like a thing that we do whenever I come home. We usually like watch something together so that, we kind of spending time with each other and we have something to talk about that way. And he has never watched anime before because he's just like, I don't want to pay attention to subtitles. But he saw me watching Food Wars and he started watching it with me. So now we watch it every night and it's been fun. And all the scenes with the nudity and the sexual innuendos, they are really hilarious to me, and I laugh a lot while watching Food Wars, so it's been fun. So we are currently watching season 3. We'll probably finish it in a day or two. We'll maybe finish all the seasons by the end of this week. And then I think I'll watch Haikyuu because I've only watched a season of it and I really need to catch up. If you have any anime recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I'm looking to watch more animes. If they are on Netflix or Prime Video, I have a subscription to both of those things, so that would be really nice. Which reminds me, I also need to watch Banana Fish. On to my October wrap-up. So the first book I read was a graphic novel, which was Bloom by Kevin Panetta. I think I already kind of wrapped this up in my last video. But yeah, I gave this 2 stars and it has really nice illustrations. It's illustrated by Savannah Ganuche. I think that's how it's pronounced. Ganuche. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Please don't hit me. Anyway, so it has really nice illustrations, but the story wasn't very impactful. Like, it's a very simplistic story, but that's not my problem with it. It just really did not leave anything with me. It did not give me a lot to hold on to. It was all pretty basic. The drawing style is really nice, so I'm satisfied with this purchase. The next book that I finished was Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. Marie Lu is one of my favorite authors, even though I've only read Warcross series and now this. I listened to all of them. I had an early listening copy for this and I listened to it, but then I couldn't finish it before the book release, which was on 29th of September, I think. So I finished it in October and I liked it. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. And it's a duology, so I'm looking forward to its sequel. Sky Hunter is about this girl named Talon, and she is a refugee in the state of Mara, and the entire world is under attack from the Federation, and Mara is the last country, and Mara is the last country standing. They treat their refugees very badly, but she's a refugee and she's fighting for them, and there is a lot of stuff that happens. Talon is a striker, which is an elite force of Mara, and they capture this escaped experimentation from the Federation, who is called the Sky Hunter, and he has some very amazing powers. A lot of stuff happens. The way that this book ends is pretty interesting. I really like the implications of war and the politics of war that this book showed us. Even though I already own the audiobook for this, I saw that Marie Lu posted a photo of its naked hardback, and I was like, I just got to have it because it has these edges that say Sky Hunter on it. And the naked hardcover is so fucking pretty. Oh, fuck off. Look at this, it's so pretty. And I was like, I don't know, I just want this. It was pretty expensive because they don't have the rights for this book in India. So I had to buy it at international prices. But it's a pretty book, and we all do stupid shit for pretty books. The next book I read was How It All Blew Up by Arvind Hamati, and I really liked this book. I gave it 5 stars out of 5, and it was a really nice book, especially, with the experiences of being brown and queer. Even though the protagonist of the book, he is Iranian American and he's gay, and we don't exactly share a lot of similarities, but he's a brown person, I'm a brown person, and I'm also queer, so I could relate to a lot of what he said, especially when he talks about, he has this weird point system in his mind when he notices what his family says about just, queer things in general. Like, it would be like small things, like if they see a queer couple holding hands on the street and they don't make a derogatory comment about it. He's like, oh, that's plus 5 points. But then at the same time, when they see something transphobic on the TV and they agree with it, and it's like minus 1,000 points. And I think we all do that kind of mathematics in our brain when we are not out to our parents and we have grown up in the kind of culture that we have. So yeah, I really liked this book and the way that it was told. It's told entirely in flashbacks because in present day, the protagonist's entire family has been detained at an airport because they were verbally fighting on a flight. All four of them tell their entire story of how all of this happened, why they were actually fighting on the airplane. So yeah, I really like the story, especially because you got to see little, little point of views of the protagonist's family, and we could see what they were thinking. And yeah, usually in like contemporary books, it's all told from the perspective of one person, and we don't really find out what other people are thinking, especially in books that are about queerness and looking for acceptance from families. After this, I read another coronavirus erotica, which is called Courting the Coronavirus. We are not going to talk about it. It was just, I cannot decide whether it was worse or better than Kissing the Coronavirus. But it was really something. I gave it 1 star out of 5, obviously. After that, I spent a lot of time slumping, and then I just felt like, being nostalgic and getting some comfort food, but in the form of books. So I reread Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is one of the only romances that I have read, and I really, really like it because the main character is such a disaster. I find a lot of, my own self-destructive behavior in Luke O'Donnell. Love interest who seems like just the perfect guy all along. Then we find out he's also very self-destructive. They are gay disasters, and I 100% support that. I really like how realistic this book is with regards to, how it shows relationships can be like, and how we all indulge in self-destructive behaviors to protect our own selves. It has a lot of layers to it. I really like the romance in it, even though I'm not the kind of person who usually likes romance in any books, because I don't know, it's just not developed the way that I would like in most books. But yeah, I really like this book, and if you're looking for romance, then I would definitely recommend that you read this. And this is coming from a person who almost never reads romances. After this, I read Forget This Ever Happened by Cassandra Rose Clark. So this is set in the 90s, I think. It's about 2 girls who are living in this small town, and that small town is actually the home to many monsters, but whenever people see those monsters, they just forget about them. So it kind of reminded me of the Cylons from Doctor Who, and just a lot of things in it were really fun. I gave it 3.75 stars out of 5, and this is another book where I like the romance between these 2 girls. So one of them is bisexual, the other one is a lesbian, and I really liked how how their feelings for each other were developed, and it felt really genuine and authentic. I wasn't like really love at first sight, which I really, really hate, and I feel like happens in most books. The entire setting was like really fun because one of the girls, she is actually kind of like a caretaker for all these monsters, while the other girl, she is kind of new to town and she's just living there with her grandma for the summer. It was a really fun read. I think it was kind of lackluster for me, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. After this, for like 3 or 4 days, I had like a great burst of reading energy. So I read a bunch of books, which the first one was Who I Was With Her by Nita Tindall, and I really, really liked this book. I gave it 5 stars out of 5. So this is about a girl who is on the track team. I don't know, she doesn't really do the like 100 meters thing, she does the 400 meter races. I don't know. She runs. She is on the running team for her school, and she is bisexual, and she was secretly dating this other girl from another school who was also on their running team, and the girl that she was dating dies, but nobody knows about it, so she cannot actually express her grief to anyone because she hid it all along. It's a really great story, and it helped me a lot because at this time I was also grieving a character, and I felt very similar to what she was feeling because I felt like I was not allowed to grieve, and that I did not deserve to grieve because just like in the story, she's like, nobody actually knew about us. Nobody actually knew about us. It doesn't feel the relationship that we had wasn't real, wasn't tangible, because none of it exists in the real world. It just feels like it was all in my head. And it was kind of similar to what I was feeling with regards to the character I was reading, because obviously it was all inside my head, my feelings for that character and everything. So yeah, it helped me a lot, because I cried the entire time I was reading this. It just allowed me to let go of a lot of tears that I had bottled inside of me for this character. And I cried also because this book is very nicely written, and like it just evokes certain feelings, and I think that's a really great testament to the author. After this, I read Julia Takes a Breath by Gabriel Rivera, and this is once again a very great book. I gave it 5 stars out of 5 because it is amazing. I have tried to read this a couple of times, but I don't know, I always leave my copy somewhere where I don't find it instantly, so I just forget about it. This is about a Puerto Rican girl who lives in the Bronx with her family. She has a white girlfriend, and she reads this self-help book from a white woman, and she suddenly immersed in feminism and like feminist thought. And she does an internship with a writer in Portland, and everything is so different over there. And then she meets a lot of people. She realizes how, you know, she had immersed herself in white feminism because, you know, her source of feminism came from a white person, and even though they say that they recognize their white privilege and everything else, they think that they were woke with respect to racism and everything else. They just are not. And I think like that is one of the major reasons why I like this book a lot, because when I entered this sphere of feminist thought, I too was very much immersed into white feminism without realizing it. It is something that is very prominent in our world and that is most easily found. And for someone who was just, you know, bumping around on the internet, it was the first thing that I found. It took me some time to realize how toxic white feminism was and to let go of it and come into my own self. I related to Juliet with that a lot. I really like this book. I would highly recommend it because of its takes on feminism, racism, and queerness, and just so many things. It's a really amazing book. So after this, I read the graphic novel for Julia Takes a Breath, and I fell in love from the first panel because I saw Juliet and she looked so beautiful. So Juliet is a fat girl. She is brown and she is queer, and I don't think we see that a lot in mainstream media. And when I saw that first panel, I had tears in my eyes because I don't think I had ever seen anyone look so beautiful while being brown and fat. That thing, it continued to amaze me throughout the graphic novel. I gave this 4 stars out of 5. I really loved the illustration style. Although I felt like a lot of things in the storyline were overly simplified for the sake of the medium, but that's bound to happen. But I really enjoyed the graphic novel. It's set to release pretty soon. I think it's either November 30th or December 1st. I would highly recommend that you check it out. It's being published by Boom Studios. I would like to thank the publisher for providing me an advanced reading copy. The next book I read was a novella called Get It Right by Sky Killian. Some misunderstandings between them in the beginning, but they sorted out, and it's kind of like a happy ending. But yeah, it's a complex story, but I didn't find it that very gripping. I gave this book 3 stars out of 5. So after this, since I was enraged by the actions of Jimmy Patterson Publishing, I read Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagin, and I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. And I kind of started its sequel as well, but I have only read a fraction of it. Every single time I think about Girls of Paper and Fire, I just remember that Teresa Sappho's Library, she always calls it the furry book, and now I have started calling it that as well, because the main world building element in this book is that there are people who are fully demon, and there are people who are half demon, and there are people who are no demon at all. And the people who are fully demon, they essentially look like animals, but they just stand on their hind legs and have opposable thumbs. So they only have like a humanoid skeleton, but they are fully animal, and it just feels like they're wearing a fursuit. So yeah. So Teresa calls it the furry book. I have also started calling it the furry book. And Sasha, who really loves these books, she hates one of us. I don't really know what to say about Girls of Paper and Fire that has already not been said. and I read it in like a very low-key way. Like, I did not plan to review it in any way, sort, form, anything. I don't really think I can say much about it. After this, I read a self-published book called All or None by Aurora Lee Thornton. This is the first in an adult fantasy series, and I was on a tour for this book, so I was provided an early copy by the tour company. It was an okay book. I think it has a lot of potential, and I think I would be reading the sequel. The entire time I was reading it, I felt kind of out of it because it just felt like it was giving me too much information at once, and I could not hold that many threads in my hand at that time. Especially in the beginning, we are being introduced to a lot of characters and we do not know which ones are important and which ones are not, so we have to like kind of think about remembering all of their names and like everything that is happening, the entire world building and everything. So it just felt like too much information for me to hold, which really lessened the enjoyment that I have gotten from this book. So I gave this book 3 stars out of 5. And I think that's it. That is all the books that I finished in October. There were a couple of books that I started that I plan to finish soon, which are Jade City, Girls of Storms and Silence, and Ironheart by Nina Varela. From what I have read, all these books seem great, and I hope that my brain will allow me to continue reading them. Now that I'm done with my wrap-up, I will be talking about the Stars and Feathers read-along that Anandi at Sleepy Dough and I will be organizing in the months of November and December. This read-along, like most things, is born out of the fact that I do not want to feel the fear of missing out anymore. Anandi talks about Anna Marie McLemore and Kay Ancrum books all the time, and I thought that I would read them at the end of this year, and when I talked about it on my socials, a lot of people were interested in reading along with me. So I thought, yeah, why not make it a read-along? And so Anandi and I did. This is a 7-week-long read-along, and we will be reading 7 books. Although that is not a requirement for participation, you can read a minimum of 3 books and still be eligible for the prizes that we will be reading. The Wicker King by Kayla Ancrum, The Weight of Stars by Kayla Ancrum, Dark and Deepest Red, Blanca and Roja, The Weight of Feathers, When the Moon Was Ours, and Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. And I'm very, very excited to read all these books. Most of Anna Marie McLemore books are magical realism, and I feel like I have not read a lot of those books yet. It's an opportunity for me to read more widely, and all these books are incredibly diverse and queer. All of these things I love. So if you think you would be interested in something like that, you can join a read-along. There will be links in the description below for, the announcements that we made for this read-along, as well as the link to our Discord server where we will be gathering together and performing cult-like rituals. I am done now. So I think this video was more just like everything I did in October kind of thing. I hope you enjoyed it. Please recommend me some nice animes that you know, and tell me if there are some games that are available for cheap on Xbox that I can buy and play. I'm looking for more like Gears of War kind of game in which, I don't have to exert a lot of energy in trying to complete the storyline. Like, it just moves along as I play the game. So November is my birthday month, and I don't like exerting myself too much because I just want to be happy at least in my birthday month. So I don't know what I will be doing with regards to reading, because I feel like I'm finally getting the hang of my console. All my life I've only played PC games and I'm not really used to the entire controller thing. But I think I'm finally getting the hang of it, and I recently started playing Batman Arkham Knight. Seems pretty fun, so I might just spend all my time playing that. Anyway, no promises because winter is finally here, and when it's cold, my body stops functioning. I haven't been online in a while, so it would be really great if you could drop your most anticipated releases and reads of November and maybe educate me a little bit on that. I feel like this is the weirdest video I have made because there's nothing connecting all of these things that I'm saying. Anyway, I hope you have a nice month, day, week, everything, and I will catch you next time.